My name is Olbak, and today I'll be presenting a project about the Russian Revolution. The prompt for the following topic is the role of Russia in World War I, how the Russian Revolution affected World War I and Russia, and as well as how the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk affected World War I. First, we will be discussing the role of Russia in the First World War. As we all know, the First World War consisted of a battle between the Allied powers and the Central Powers. The country of Russia was working with countries like Great Britain, France, and the United States of America, all together in the Allied powers, while battling the countries a part of the Central Powers, including the Ottoman Empire, the German Empire, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Russian military was going into World War I with around 5 million soldiers, but not enough weapons. The leader and commander of the Russian military was General Sukhalinov. 5 million soldiers had been on the war front for the Russians. That is a small number compared to what they had begun with, which was 25 million. The problem was the very bad railroads that were to deploy the soldiers to the war front. Tsar Nicholas II was the ruler of Russia at the time of World War I. In World War I, Russia played a big role of mobilizing the Serbian military. They had also been on the eastern front of the war in attacks of Germany and Austria-Hungary. The first small battle of World War I had broke out. It was the Battle of Tannenberg, a war/fight between the Russian Empire and the German Empire. The second smaller battle of the World War I had begun, and that was the Battle of Marne, in which the Russians were prepared and so were the Allied powers. This battle was mainly Great Britain against the Germans, with Russia assisting their Allied powers. Next, we have the Russian Revolution. Not a big turning point in World War I, but a good time for the Russians to re-energize. The Russian Revolution gave Russia a big break as the Red Army was unable to break through the German lines. Another one of Russia's big problems was economic instability and very small amounts of food for the population. This was all due to all the money going to the battlefield. Connection between the poor people of Russia had been lost between the head officials. This was all due to the amount of money that these people were making. And this also brought hostility towards Tsar Nicholas II and his German-born wife, Alexandra. With the Russian Revolution still going on, the instability had been exploded and ended Tsarist rule. This was led by Vladimir Lenin and the Bolsheviks, which also had stopped the participation in World War I for the Russians. Both Lenin and the Bolsheviks had brought communist thinking to the country of Russia. Russia's domestic economy had collapsed and both food and fuel were critically scarce in Russian city. This is due to Tsarist rule. And this had created the rise of a socialist government in Russia. Finally, we have the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk was an agreement between Russia and Germany that ended Russia's involvement in World War I. Negotiations for the treaty began in the Polish town of Brest-Litovsk in December 1917, which eventually gave the name for this treaty. Germany's negotiators, having established the political and military weakness of the Bolshevik government, put forward a series of extensive demands for territory and resources. Russian representatives, hoping that the socialist revolution would break out in Germany, attempted to stall negotiations. The Germans threatened to end a ceasefire after negotiations with Trotsky broke down. Finally, once the treaty was finalized, Lenin pushed for it to be ratified immediately. However, the party did. Once the Bolshevik government ratified the treaty in March of 1918, it imposed severe terms on Russia, surrendering large amounts of land, people, and heavy industry to German control. Overall, the Russian Empire didn't have the biggest influence in World War I, but had a pretty big assisting role.